I hope you're all having a really good week. Before we get into today's theory, let me know something in the comments. Which brawler have you been using the most recently? Because I have been playing Crow, and I'm not gonna lie, I completely understand why people hate fighting this guy. You're peacefully walking around the map, minding your own business, and suddenly 3 poison daggers hit you from absolutely nowhere. You try to heal. You cannot heal. You move backwards. Crow follows you. You chase him. He runs away. And just when you think you finally have him, he jumps over the wall and disappears. Honestly, Crow players, we need to have a conversation. Why are you people like this? Anyway, today we are diving into the secret life of Crow. I have a theory about where he came from, why he can speak, why his attacks are poisonous, and why he never seems to trust anybody around him. Because Crow is one of those brawlers we have all accepted without really questioning him. He is a bird wearing a leather jacket, he carries poison daggers, he walks around like he owns the entire park, and somehow everybody sees this and behaves like it is completely normal. But it is not normal. Crow was not born like this, at least I do not think he was. I believe Crow was once an ordinary bird that was captured and taken beneath Star Park for a secret experiment. The experiment gave him his intelligence, his poison, and his incredible jumping ability. But it also left something dangerous inside his body, something that may still be slowly killing him. So get comfortable, enjoy the gameplay, and listen closely because this may be how Crow got his powers. Long before Star Park became the colorful place we know today, most of the park was still under construction. The rides were unfinished. The arcade machines had not arrived. The arenas had not been opened. From the outside, Star Park looked like an ordinary amusement park preparing for its grand opening. But beneath the construction site, something else was already operating. A secret underground laboratory. The laboratory did not appear on any official map. Most Star Park workers did not even know it existed. The only entrance was hidden behind a maintenance door at the end of a restricted tunnel. Employees who worked near the tunnel were told that the area contained electrical equipment. They were warned never to enter. But some workers claimed they could hear strange noises behind the walls at night. Cages shaking, machines turning on and off, animals crying out, and sometimes footsteps moving through the tunnels when nobody was supposed to be there. Personally, after hearing the first mysterious noise, I would have resigned. Immediately. You would not catch me investigating an underground Star Park tunnel at midnight. That is exactly how people disappear in movies. But inside this laboratory, a group of scientists was developing an experimental chemical. They called it Formula V. Formula V was designed to transform ordinary animals into intelligent creatures that Star Park could use as living mascots. The scientists wanted something that could understand human instructions, entertain visitors, and defend the park if anything went wrong. Basically, they wanted a mascot that did not need a person inside a costume. And at first, the idea sounded brilliant. But Formula 5 was extremely unstable. The scientists tested it on mice. The mice became stronger, but they also became aggressive. They tested it on rabbits. The rabbits developed unusual speed, but their bodies could not survive the transformation. They even tested it on reptiles. Some of them appeared to understand human speech, but they refused to follow instructions. Every experiment created a different result, and every result was considered a failure. Star Park management was becoming impatient. The project had already cost them a huge amount of money, and they wanted something they could show to the public. The scientists needed a new subject, an animal that was naturally intelligent, an animal capable of recognizing faces, solving problems, and remembering people who treated it badly. Then one evening, while the scientists were working, one of them noticed a black bird sitting outside the laboratory entrance. A crow. The bird was perched directly on top of a security camera. It was not eating. It was not making noise. It was just staring down at the entrance. The scientists chased it away, but the bird returned the next morning. They moved the camera. The bird followed it. They covered one of the windows. The bird appeared near another one. Every day, it returned to the same location and watched the scientists entering the laboratory. Now, this should have been their first warning. That bird was already behaving suspiciously. It was basically studying their work schedule. But instead of leaving it alone, the scientists became interested. They placed food outside the laboratory. The crow took it. The next day, they placed the food closer to the entrance. The crow returned. They continued moving the food until eventually the bird entered a small metal cage. The door closed behind it, and just like that, Star Park had captured its next test subject. Inside the laboratory, the scientists placed the bird inside a reinforced glass enclosure. They did not give it a normal name. Instead, they labeled the experiment according to its category. Subject C-Row, C-R-O-W. Crow. Think about that for a second. What if Crow was never his original name? What if the name came from the letters printed on the cage where Star Park kept him? Subject C-Row. Maybe Crow saw that label every day. Maybe he heard the scientists saying it whenever they entered the laboratory. And after the transformation gave him the ability to speak, Crow became the only name he remembered. At first, the scientists injected him with very small amounts of Formula Vive. Nothing appeared to happen. Crow continued behaving like an ordinary bird. He ate, he slept, he pecked at the glass. The scientists recorded another unsuccessful experiment. But after several days, strange things began happening inside the laboratory. A security card disappeared from one scientist's coat. The next morning, it was found beside Crow's cage. A cabinet containing medical equipment was left open. A set of keys moved from one side of the room to another. Somebody changed the security camera settings during the night. The scientists began accusing each other. They reviewed the footage, but whenever one of the objects moved, the camera recording had been interrupted. Only for a few seconds. Never long enough to reveal what had happened. And throughout all of this, Crow remained inside his enclosure, quiet, motionless, watching. The scientists believed Formula Vive had failed, but it had not failed. It was already changing Crow's mind. Every day, Crow watched the scientists enter their security codes. He memorized the sounds made by each button. He studied when the cameras turned away from his cage. He watched how the scientists opened cabinets, activated machines, and unlocked doors. At night, Crow began escaping from his enclosure. Only for a few seconds at first. He would move an object, study another part of the room, and return before the camera turned back towards him. He was learning how the laboratory worked. He was learning how humans behaved. And most importantly, he was learning how to escape. Crow was no longer an ordinary bird. He was becoming more intelligent than the scientists experimenting on him. But the transformation was happening too slowly. Star Park management did not care about Crow's intelligence. They wanted visible results. They wanted something powerful, something impressive, something they could control. So the scientists created a more concentrated version of Formula 5. This new formula was far more dangerous. One scientist warned that the chemical could shut down the nervous system of a full-grown person. He asked for more time to study it. Star Park management refused. They ordered the experiment to continue. Crow was removed from his enclosure and strapped to a metal examination table. He struggled as the scientists connected wires to his body. Then they injected the concentrated formula directly into his bloodstream. At first, nothing happened. The scientists watched the monitors. Crow's heartbeat began getting faster, then dangerously fast. His entire body started shaking. The laboratory lights flickered, the monitors sounded an alarm, and suddenly, Crow's heartbeat stopped. The room became completely silent. The scientists believed the experiment had failed. They disconnected the machines and removed the restraints. One of them recorded the official time of death. But Crow was not dead. Formula 5 had entered every part of his body. His bones were changing, his wings were growing stronger, his claws were becoming capable of gripping objects. His brain was processing every sound, every face, and every painful memory at once. Crow remembered being captured. He remembered the cage. He remembered every injection. He remembered every scientist who had watched him suffer. And then, his eyes opened. The lights inside the laboratory immediately went out. The emergency alarm began ringing. Red warning lights flashed across the walls. One scientist ran towards the exit, but before he reached it, the security doors slammed shut. Another scientist grabbed a tranquilizer weapon. He turned towards the examination table. Crow was gone. The scientist looked around the room. Nothing. Then something flew through the darkness and scratched his arm. A black feather. The scientist looked at the tiny mark and thought Crow had missed. But after a few seconds, his hand became numb. The tranquilizer weapon fell from his fingers, his legs stopped working, and he collapsed. Another feather flew across the room, then another. One by one, the scientists dropped to the floor. The feathers were not dangerous because they were sharp. They were dangerous because they were poisoned. Crow's body had absorbed Formula 5. The same chemical that was supposed to kill him had become part of him. His feathers carried poison. His claws carried poison. Even his blood had become toxic. Star Park had wanted to create the perfect mascot. Instead, they had created one of the most dangerous creatures in the entire park. Crow entered the ventilation system and disappeared into the underground tunnels. When the emergency security team finally entered the laboratory, they discovered the scientists unconscious on the floor. Crow's glass enclosure was shattered. The examination table was empty, and Subject C Row was missing. Star Park immediately covered up the incident. Management claimed that an electrical accident had occurred inside a restricted maintenance area. Every record connected to Formula 5 was removed. The surviving scientists were warned never to speak about the experiment. The laboratory was sealed, and security teams were sent throughout Star Park to search for Crow, but they could not find him, because Crow had already entered the public area of the park, and this might explain his leather jacket. Have you ever wondered why Crow wears one? A leather jacket is not exactly something a bird naturally finds lying around. Maybe it belonged to one of the Star Park security guards sent to capture him. Crow needed to hide the marks left on his body by the experiments, so he stole a guard's jacket and walked into the park among the other employees. Visitors saw him and assumed he was a new mascot. Children waved at him. Families took pictures with him. Workers thought he was part of the entertainment. Nobody realized that the bird standing beside them had escaped from a secret lit laboratory only hours earlier. Imagine taking a family photograph with Crow while security is searching the entire park for a poisonous experiment. No, thank you. I am going home. But that leads to an important question. Why did Crow remain inside Star Park? If he had escaped the laboratory, why did he not leave the park completely? Because Crow may still be searching for something. A cure. The concentrated Formula 5 transformed him, but the chemical may still be unstable. The poison inside his body might be slowly building up. Every time Crow throws his daggers, he could be releasing a small amount of that poison. Every battle may prevent the chemical from becoming too powerful inside him. That means Crow might not attack people simply because he enjoys it. He may need to release the poison regularly to survive. If he stops fighting, the poison could overwhelm his body. And this might explain why Crow is so thin. Everybody jokes about his tiny legs. But what if his appearance is not just part of his design? What if Formula 5 is draining him? What if the poison is slowly consuming his energy? Crow may look confident, arrogant, and fearless on the outside, but underneath that jacket, his body could be fighting against the experiment every single day. His power is keeping him alive. And at the same time, his power may be slowly killing him. That would completely change the way we understand Crow. He would not just be an annoying assassin who enjoys poisoning everybody. He would be a survivor, a creature trapped inside a body that Star Park created for him. And his super might also be connected to the night he escaped. Imagine Crow moving through the underground tunnels after leaving the laboratory. Security guards discover him and surround every exit. The doors behind Crow begin closing. There is nowhere left to run. His heartbeat becomes faster. The Formula 5 inside him reacts to the danger. His legs become stronger, his wings spread, and for the first time, Crow jumps. He launches himself over the guards, spreads poison across the floor, and lands on the other side of the security doors. The move that saved his life that night eventually became the super we use during matches. And suddenly, Crow's entire fighting style makes sense. He does not stand directly in front of his opponents. He attacks from a distance. He slowly weakens people. He keeps moving. He only jumps towards an enemy when he believes they can no longer stop him. That is not necessarily the fighting style of somebody who feels powerful. It could be the fighting style of somebody who spent years being hunted. Crow expects traps. He expects betrayal. He believes that anyone who gets too close might try to capture him again. That is why he never stays in one location for long. But Star Park was not prepared to let him disappear. They needed a way to watch every section of the park at the same time. They needed something capable of following a target that could move over walls, disappear into crowds, and travel through areas ordinary security guards could not reach. And this is where RT enters the theory. What if RT was created specifically to locate Crow? Think about it. RT is always watching. He can separate his body into two parts. He can monitor different locations at the same time. His entire design is connected to cameras and surveillance. Maybe RT is not simply another brawler. Maybe he is Star Park's security system. Every camera around the park could be connected to him. Every match could be recorded through his eyes. And his real mission might be to locate Subject C-Row and return him to the underground laboratory. Crow may know this. That is why he keeps moving between different arenas. That is why he hides behind walls. That is why he attacks quickly and disappears. Crow is not only fighting the enemy team, he is also avoiding the cameras. But there may be another reason Crow continues entering the arenas. He could be testing the other brawlers. Leon can become invisible. Spike is a living cactus. Squeak appears to be made from some strange substance. Amber can control fire. Several brawlers possess abilities that should be impossible. What if Formula 5 was not the only secret experiment beneath Star Park? What if Crow believes another brawler was created using the same chemical? Every time he poisons someone, he watches how their body reacts. He is searching for someone who is immune, someone whose powers came from the same laboratory, someone who might know where Star Park hid the antidote. That means every match is more than a battle, it is an investigation. Every brawler is a possible clue. Every new arena gives Crow access to another part of Star Park, and every victory takes him closer to the people responsible for creating him. But there is one final possibility, and this is the part that makes the entire theory much darker. What if there is no antidote? What if Formula Phi did not malfunction? What if Crow was not an accident? Star Park may never have wanted an innocent mascot. They may have wanted a fighter from the beginning, a creature intelligent enough to understand strategy, fast enough to avoid capture, powerful enough to poison multiple enemies, and loyal enough to remain inside Star Park. Maybe the scientists expected Crow to escape. Maybe they intentionally left part of the ventilation system open. Maybe the security doors closed slowly enough for him to jump through. Maybe Crow believes he escaped the experiment. But in reality, the experiment never ended. Every battle he enters could be another test. Every dagger he throws could be recorded. Every time he uses his super, somebody inside Section C could be collecting information. Crow thinks he is searching Star Park for a cure. But Star Park may be studying him the entire time. And RT may not be trying to capture him yet. RT may simply be observing how powerful Crow becomes. So the next time Crow poisons you, jumps over a wall, and escapes with about 50 health, you can still be angry because it is extremely annoying. But remember that he may not be running because he is afraid of losing the match. He may be running because staying in one place gives Star Park another chance to find him. Crow could be searching for an antidote. He could be fighting to release the poison inside his body. And somewhere behind the cameras, RT could be watching every move he makes. So what do you think? Was Crow once an ordinary bird captured by Star Park? Did Formula Phi give him his poison and intelligence? Is his own power slowly destroying his body? And is RT secretly following him through every arena? Or maybe Subject C-Row was not the only experiment that escaped that laboratory. Maybe there are other creatures hiding inside Star Park, and maybe some of them are already brawlers we use every day. But that is a theory for another episode. Let me know your own Crow theory in the comments, and tell me which brawler we should investigate next. Should we look into Leon and how he became invisible? Should we uncover the truth about Spike? Or should we finally investigate Edgar and find out what exactly is happening with that scarf? Leave a like if you enjoyed the theory, subscribe for the next episode, and enjoy the rest of the gameplay. Thank you so much for watching, ladies and gents, and remember, the next time you notice a crow sitting somewhere above you, staring without moving, do not look at it for too long. It might already recognize your face. I'll catch you in the next video.